What's up, guys? Welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. Alright, this substantial and juicy revenge story is called Racist Boss Harassed Puerto Rican Employees and Broke Labor Laws, Ended Up Getting Deported. I worked at a fairly known restaurant in a small northern New England city as an assistant manager. The owners were very successful restaurateurs with several successful non-chain establishments and spent maybe a day or two a month in our location. The rest of the time, there was a general manager in charge. We'll call her Jan. Jan was about as type A as they come. She was a middle-aged woman, but beautiful and petite, and she always looked put together and primed. Jan had started with the owners a decade earlier in their first restaurant as a server and had worked her way up to general manager over the years. At first, I just thought she had extremely high standards, which I respected. I have high standards as well and take pride in my work. I had been impressed by how the kitchens were spotless. The staff was immaculate. Like run a white-gloved hand under the back of the oven and it comes back white, kind of clean. And the food was always top quality. I had frequently been a customer and was thrilled that I got the job there. I had been in the business for a decade and that restaurant was the place in our area. I was so excited. Unfortunately, I quickly learned why everything is so shining and perfect. Jan was a tyrant. She was the kind of boss who soured the mood of the entire staff like a storm cloud hovering over us that never went away. Nothing was ever good enough, and the standards changed from day to day. On a good day, she would shut herself up in the office and then leave early. Good days were very rare and could turn into bad days at the drop of a dime. On bad days, you couldn't be perfect enough, and she would come up with new rules and regulations just to punish people. If a host called out sick, they were literal children, she would berate them on the phone and make them cry. If a cook made a mistake on a plate, she would humiliate them in front of the staff, accuse them of doing it on purpose, and then give us the silent treatment for hours after. Seriously, if someone's cash out was off, even by a few cents, she would accuse them of theft and force me to cut down their hours. As a fellow manager, I was mostly spared her awful behavior, though I had to hear about her treatment for my staff almost every day. All of this was just run-of-the-mill bad boss stuff until it came time for our yearly staff evaluation meetings. This is where Raul enters the story. Raul was a hard-working dishwasher who had moved to our state from Puerto Rico a few years earlier and spoke English with some difficulty. Whenever I had to go over anything official with him, he would have a coworker translate between us to be sure we were both communicating clearly. Jan refused this courtesy to Raul. This made his evaluation pretty difficult. Raul managed to communicate to us that due to recent cuts in his hours, he would be forced to get a second job to pay the bills. Something about this absolutely set Jan off. She told him she would fire him if he dared. I could see plainly on the intake paperwork in front of me that Raul had been hired with the understanding that it would be a full-time position. So I pointed that out. Jan was furious, but agreed through gritted teeth that if Raul agreed to not get a second job, she would bump his hours up to at least 35 hours a week. It was stated as clear as day, and I documented it in my daily manager logbook. Work went on as usual after that, and I didn't think much of this meeting again for a few months. Another time, a while later, while filling out information for tax returns, Jan called me into the office. I could tell she had pulled the tiny room apart looking for something. "All information about our Puerto Rican employees is gone," she told me with a mixture of panic and suspicion. I looked at the files in question and they all seemed to be in order, so I was confused and told her I couldn't help. A few minutes later, I walked back in the office to find her arguing with Rosa, our most talented chef and a Puerto Rican native. Rosa was perfectly fluent in English. "No, Rosa." Jan was speaking to Rosa as though she were hard of hearing or mentally slow. "Where is your green card?" "What are you talking about?" Rosa was confused. "Are you an illegal or something? Is that why one of you broke in here? To hide the proof?" Jan wasn't yelling, but her eyes were cold and flashing with rage. "What?" Rosa was starting to get angry now. It suddenly clicked for me, so I interrupted. Jan, you do realize that Puerto Rico is a United States territory, right? Of course I know that, Jan snapped back. Okay, so you know that Rosa has a social security number like any other American native. Oh, right. Never mind, Rosa, you can go back to work. Jan did not apologize for accusing Rosa of theft. I was so done with this place after that. Jan did all kinds of little things like that, and she never apologized. I had already gotten a job offer for a place closer to my house when the final straw came. I was the closing manager one day and got in just before the dinner rush to see Raul storming out the back door. He didn't speak much English, but his fork and baffle gab was very clear. Jan had lied about raising his hours to 35 per week, so Raul had gotten the second job he talked about. When Jan found out, she fired him, but not before saying something about how all you illegals are the same. She was really fixated on these American citizens being illegal aliens for some reason. By this point, I freaking hated this woman too. She once told me my clothing made me look poor in front of the whole staff. I was wearing what she made me wear. Meanwhile, she wore open-toed shoes behind the line, which is against the health codes. And once her fake nail fell off into the coleslaw and she wouldn't let anyone toss it out after she retrieved it. This is just the tip of the iceberg, but I have a life to live. Since I knew I would be leaving soon anyway, I told Raul he should go after our boss for wrongful termination, since I had documented proof with Jan's signature that he had been promised more hours and that Jan had broken the agreement, not Raul. The last time I saw Jan was on my way out of Raul's lawyer's office after giving a deposition about several labor laws she had violated, at least the ones that I knew about. Apparently, there were many others she had broken in front of other employees. She couldn't even look me in the eye. The best part? At my deposition, I learned that Jan was actually the one who was illegally in the country. Her green card had recently expired. She was Canadian. She ended up being sent back to Canada as a result of this case, and no one has heard from her since. Raul was granted 6 months of unemployment pay, plus the restaurant had to pay his legal fees. They closed that location not long after. Maybe they should hire managers more carefully next time? Jan, if you're reading this, I hope you got your crap together. I also hope you learn to wear closed-toed shoes behind the line. You wouldn't want to end up a huge, gigantic screw-up due to your own negligence, now would you? Okay, that was some good, quality freaking revenge. Holy crap. I love how this turned out. This dude got her good. And also, Jan, what a jerk. Alright guys, this Odyssey-length story's called Don't Pay on Time? Alright, let's play that game. I know this is long, I feel like it's worth it though. My significant other worked at a private school in South Korea, also known as Hagwon. Hagwon teaches all kinds of subjects, and this particular one taught English. They would hire native English teachers from around the world to come to Korea and teach English. Although I've never taught English in Korea, I've been in Korea long enough to be very familiar with the laws, practices, and heard numerous horror stories. I also am good friends with a Korean lawyer that specializes in business disputes. So I met my girlfriend. She was on her second contract in Korea at a new school, as the first school she worked at, the owner retired and shut it all down. That was actually a pretty positive experience. He always paid on time. When he informed everyone he was shutting down the school, he'd of course pay out everything agreed upon in the contracts, but also any unused vacation time, sick time, plus he would double that year's bonus as a thank you. My girlfriend told him in her contract she had a free flight home at the end of the contract but didn't plan on using it. So the owner of her first school told her that's fine, he'll just pay her an extra $1,000 as that is what the flight would have cost anyways. So my girlfriend found a second school to work at after her first school shut down, due to the retirement of the owner. However, her second school had some warning signs that I was concerned about. 3 foreign teachers. All are on their first year contracts. Typically, if a school is good, you'll get a few teachers who are willing to sign on to second, third, etc. year contracts. Not this case, which I felt was odd, especially for a school that had been around for years. The school had a pretty low student population count, just under 100. I've always heard you want about 50 students per teacher for cash flow, etc. reasons unless you're a high-end school. Also, apparently, payday was supposed to be between the 10th and 15th. They said in case of holiday or weekend. Oh well, not my business. This was still very early in our relationship. 2 months into our relationship, my girlfriend is annoyed. I find out her school has only paid half her salary and will be paying the other half in 1 week. This was a massive red sign to me. I gave my girlfriend advice what to do at this point. She ignored me and said, "They're just having a little cash flow issue. Some students haven't paid on time." Okay, whatever. 2 months later, we get invited to a dinner hosted by the owners, husband and wife. I got off work early and headed on over. Red sign number 2. Both husband and wife drove very, very nice cars. The wife had a Tesla and the husband had a very nice BMW 5 Series. Off we go to dinner. I get to dinner. My goal is to learn as much about my girlfriend's school's owners as possible, so I jump into pleasant conversation. More red signs to follow. They have 3 kids, 2 young ones and 1 older one. The 2 young ones attend numerous hag ones for various things. This is expensive, and their oldest is attending college in America, also expensive. They live in the rich part of town in a very large apartment, which I was able to find out is financed, aka high payments. They're about to start a new marketing campaign to get more students, as numerous students have dropped out lately. They know they don't have the student population to maintain what they need to maintain. Red signs are going off in my head like this place is heading straight for a freaking cliff and everyone needs to jump ship now. Not enough students, owners have a ton of bills, they won't be staying in business long. Again, not really my place to say anything at this point, but I took a mental note. Next month, my girlfriend's pay is late again. Let's just say she kept telling me to mind my own business each time I tried to give her advice. This went on like this for 3 months, and finally, she went an entire month without getting her full salary. She got about a third. Final red sign. Girlfriend comes over to a letter on her door of her apartment for eviction. You see, in Korea, it's common for the school to pay the rent and provide housing. Apparently, they haven't been paying rent. Girlfriend is mad, she's broke, and about to become homeless. The time for action is now. Remember when I said I knew what to do? ProRevenge starts here. I had her check her national pension, tax records, and healthcare information, all of which are legal requirements for her to maintain visa. Even though her school hasn't paid those things for months, she's required to pay them. I'm fuming. This school is royally screwing over my girlfriend, and that's not cool. My girlfriend is distraught because she's a very prideful woman that now has to ask her boyfriend, that's me, for help. I pull into the savings and pay up all her requirements and set up regular monthly payments to ensure that even if her school doesn't pay, which they haven't, she can maintain her visa. I then ask her a favor. I want to sit down with her co-teachers. Experience has taught me she's not the only one getting screwed over. However, do you know what the beautiful thing about this is? You see, the Korean government is sick and tired of schools bringing over foreign teachers and screwing them over. In the past, those teachers who have gotten screwed up have gone crawling to their respective embassies, oftentimes homeless, penniless, with nowhere to turn because their employer didn't have the resources to meet their contractual obligations, and many schools were getting shut down, especially on the 3rd complaint. I tell all her co-teachers to keep going to work. They have to maintain their visas, and I would get back with them in a day or so. I also am good friends with a Korean lawyer that specializes in business disputes. Remember that part? This lawyer and I go way back. I've known him for the better part of a decade. He helped me navigate my divorce, I gave him a couch to sleep on when he was going through his divorce, I once loaned him money, he paid me back, and we both really liked helping each other out. Now I'll spoil the fun for you. No, this lawyer, my friend, is not going to be suing the school. So I called up my friend and said, "Hey, I want to go drink some soju and talk to you about something and maybe hit you up for a favor?" He goes, "Sure thing." We go to our favorite barbecue place, start pounding back the soju as I explain the situation to him. He's getting madder and madder. He's upset because he feels like this is giving those foreigners a bad view of his country, and he hates Koreans that make Korea look bad. and I ask him to help file claims with the labor board, with the goals of getting them paid, getting them a letter of release so they can switch to D10 visas and find a better school, or leave Korea altogether if they choose, and getting the school shut down. Now, my friend wouldn't be suing the school as a government-appointed lawyer would be. Since this is a labor board issue, he really doesn't need to do much. However, when a Korean lawyer who specializes in business law calls the labor board to file a complaint about a breach of contract with an English teacher against a Hagwon, that carries more weight than if the teacher goes through it by themselves. Also, I feel like it helps the communication and eliminated potential language disputes. This would be compounded by the fact if each one of those teachers filed separate cases against the same school a few days apart. He agrees to help. Strike one. Girlfriend goes up first. My friend sits down with her, collects what evidence she has, calls the labor board. Complaint 1 filed. Bam! Girlfriend goes to school. Her boss is angry. Her boss approaches her and asks, "How can you betray me?" My girlfriend said, "Pay me my money." Boss asks, "How can you do this?" Girlfriend said. She smiled and said, "This is just the start." Strike 2. Strike 1 is still underway, with the labor board coming down the necks of the Hagwon owners demanding payment. Demanding to know why my girlfriend hasn't been paid. Friend calls the labor board, same case manager. He files the case number 2 against the school. The next day, my girlfriend and Strike 2 teacher are called into a meeting with the owners. They want to work out a payment plan and give them a letter of release. Girlfriend says, full payment of all money owed plus bonus for completion of contract prorated for months completed or no deal. The owner tells her that's not possible. Girlfriend says, that's fine, full payment or no deal. Strike 2.5. My friend finds out what the Hagwon owners tried to do. He advises my girlfriend and her co-teachers if that happens again, do not engage in any negotiations. Hand them his business card and tell them if they have a settlement offer, they can call their lawyer. He gives business cards to all teachers. Strike 3. Bam wham, open a can of worms, folks, we are here! Co-teacher 3 goes to my friend, he calls the labor board, and guess what? Same case manager has gotten 3 valid labor disputes over breach of contract from the same school all in a matter of 2 weeks. This school is now not only a liability to its employees, but the Korean government, the Hitsland. Labor board apparently called the school, demands that all salaries, pension payments, taxes, health insurance premiums, and rent will be paid in full within 10 days or the education license and business license will be revoked, and the school's assets will be seized and sold to pay the teachers what they are due. In addition, creditors, etc., who are also very likely owed money, will be paid. Left hook lands. My girlfriend said the next day at school was crazy. The owners were freaking the F out. Their entire lives falling apart. They had government lawyers so far up their butt they couldn't even sit down. That's when the owners decided they would pull all the teachers into a meeting and work out a settlement. Keep in mind, at this point, the school owed approximately $20 in back wages, healthcare premiums, pension payments, and future liabilities on top of whatever rent was due for all their payments, which, by this point, were all under separate eviction proceedings. The owners offered each one of them $1,500 in cash that day if they would be willing to drop the labor dispute. Each one of the teachers pulled out my friend's business card and said, "Any settlement offers should be made to my lawyer." I so wish I could have seen this happen. The owners grab the business cards, look at the teachers and go, "You have a Korean lawyer?" They answer, "Yes." "You all have the same lawyer?" "Yes." Can you imagine having 3 separate legal issues from 3 separate people and finding out the same lawyer is representing each individual suing you? How that must feel. "Will you take the 1.5 now and we work out a payment plan?" They all say, "Talk to my lawyer," at the same time. They leave the meeting. That night, all 4 of us partied. They all felt like complete bad booties. Their owners now knew how truly F they were. We had a pretty good party that night. The end was near. The owners dodged a bullet. For now, the labor board was really angry. According to my friend who was following up with the labor board, the process to resolve this was being fast-tracked, and the labor board was deadly serious about shutting the school down if they couldn't pay by the deadline. Apparently, the owners were trying to secure a loan to pay the teachers and keep the teachers employed and the school open. They filed for extensions and got some more time. They did pay out partial salaries, which helped the teachers get by day. By this point, my girlfriend had already been evicted and was living with me, and I was supporting her. She was loaning her partial payments to her co-teachers who didn't have the same support. Sir, it is time to drop Fat Boy. It was a Thursday. My girlfriend had just arrived at work. Yes, she was still legally required to work at a school that wasn't paying her. When shortly after she started, a bunch of Koreans arrived in suits, posted up notices. 15 minutes go by, and one of the Korean men in a suit steps inside of the classroom, introduces himself, and says all the students are going to be bused home for today. All the kids are loaded onto the buses, and each one given a notice to give to their parents. My girlfriend is instructed to wait until all the students are gone. Process takes about an hour, and then my girlfriend is told she is to go home and the labor board will contact her for the next step. They step outside, and there is a moving van with a few Korean men waiting around. My girlfriend calls my friend the lawyer, who calls the labor board. The school had been foreclosed on. Their assets are going to be seized and sold, and my teachers will be paid out of the proceeds of the sale. If the school doesn't have enough assets to cover the salaries, payments, etc., the government will seize any assets of the owners to pay. The teachers now had a judgment, and the courts are going to collect and pay out on it. The dust settles. 2 months later, one of the co-teachers opted to fly my girlfriend home, and the co-teacher that decided to stay in Korea found much better schools to work at. And my friend calls me all excited, and he told me he just got off the phone with the labor board. Enough business and personal assets have been seized and sold to pay all the teachers what they are due. Each teacher will have $300 deducted for the lawyer fees, not for him, he did all this for free, but for the government lawyer who handled the case behind the scenes. Also, the owners have been permanently barred from ever opening a business, and the education board had barred the owners from operating in any school setting again. No idea what happened to the owners after this, but life goes on. My girlfriend and I took a nice vacation on her back pay and put the rest in the bank. It felt good to win. Okay, wow, that is a magnificent story. I feel like this belongs in Nuclear Revenge because he absolutely destroyed those owners. Like, wow. I absolutely admire this dude and the lawyer, especially the lawyer, he did it all for free. And this dude for helping out his girlfriend and all the other teachers, and his girlfriend for giving her back pay or her partial pay or whatever to another teacher that needed it more than her. Everyone was helping each other out so great, and it's so great to read about. You know, when you're reading about kids throwing switches at other things and parents trying to steal dogs and all this crazy mamma jamma, this was a good read. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.